Imagine living a life where nothing can stop you, where challenges don't intimidate you, where setbacks fuel you, and where every step forward feels like it's building the unstoppable version of yourself. Now, here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The life you dream about isn't waiting for you. It's earned. It's earned in the moments when no one is watching, when the work feels too hard, when your motivation has disappeared, and every fiber of your body is begging you to quit. Today, I'm going to show you why doing what's hard right now, while it's uncomfortable, slow, and inconvenient, is the single most powerful thing you can do to become unstoppable. This isn't about quick fixes or lucky breaks. This is about creating habits, building identity, and developing a mindset that no obstacle, no distraction, and no setback can shake. By the end of this talk, you'll understand why embracing the struggle today is the only way to guarantee freedom, success, and control tomorrow. So if you're ready to stop settling for easy and start becoming unstoppable, stay with me, because what you learn in the next few minutes could completely change the trajectory of your life. Hard choices create easy futures because every difficult decision you make today removes a layer of struggle from your tomorrow. Most people misunderstand this. They believe life becomes easier first and then they'll do what's hard. In reality, life only becomes easier after you've consistently chosen discipline over comfort. Waking up early, sticking to a routine, learning a skill when progress feels slow, or saying no to distractions all feel heavy in the moment because they demand energy, focus, and self-control. But those same choices quietly build structure, confidence, and leverage in your life. Over time, that structure reduces chaos. That confidence reduces fear, and that leverage reduces effort. When you avoid hard choices, you're not avoiding pain, you're postponing it. Skipping discipline today might feel good, but it creates pressure tomorrow. Ignoring your health saves effort now, but costs you energy later. Avoiding learning saves time now, but steals opportunities later. The future doesn't negotiate, it collects interest on every easy decision you make. That's why people who consistently choose comfort feel overwhelmed years later, while those who chose discipline early seem calm and in control. They paid the price up front. Hard choices also train your mind. Every time you do something difficult on purpose, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling discomfort. That proof compounds. You stop panicking when things get tough because you've already practiced toughness. This mental resilience is what makes the future feel easier, not because problems disappear, but because you're stronger when they arrive. Life doesn't get lighter, your capacity gets bigger. Easy futures are built on systems created through hard choices. Systems like habits, skills, routines, savings, and standards don't happen accidentally. They are constructed through repeated, often boring effort. Once those systems exist, life requires less willpower. You don't need motivation to work out if it's part of your identity. You don't stress about money when you've built financial discipline. You don't fear competition when you've already outworked it. The irony is that hard choices rarely feel heroic. They feel quiet, lonely, and unrewarded at first. No applause for consistency, no recognition for discipline, but over time, those unseen decisions stack up and turn into visible results. The future becomes easier not because you got lucky, but because you were willing to be uncomfortable when it mattered most. Delayed gratification, dominate long-term means training yourself to resist short-term pleasure so you can win on a much bigger timeline. Most people live trapped in the moment, making decisions based on how something feels right now instead of where it will lead. They choose entertainment over education, comfort over effort, and distraction over focus. These choices feel harmless because the reward is instant and the consequences are invisible. But over time, those small moments of indulgence stack up and quietly limit growth, options, and confidence. Long-term winners think differently. They ask what this choice will cost them in 6 months, 5 years, or a decade. Delayed gratification is not about punishment or living a miserable life. It's about choosing meaningful rewards over shallow ones. Studying instead of scrolling doesn't feel exciting, but knowledge compounds. Saving money instead of spending it doesn't feel fun, but freedom compounds. Training your body when it's tired doesn't feel good, but strength compounds. Every time you delay gratification, you are investing in a future version of yourself who has more options, less stress, and more control. The return on that investment is invisible at first, which is why most people quit early. The ability to delay gratification builds self-trust. When you consistently keep promises to yourself, your confidence stops depending on external validation. You no longer need motivation because your identity becomes someone who finishes what they start. That self-trust becomes a competitive advantage in a world full of impulsive behavior. While others react emotionally, you respond intentionally. While others chase quick wins, you build foundations. This difference doesn't show up immediately, but over time it creates massive separation. Long-term domination comes from patience paired with consistent. Anyone can work hard for a week. Very few people can stay disciplined when results are slow and boring. Delaying gratification teaches you to stay focused without feedback. You learn to work without applause, to progress without recognition, and to grow without reassurance. That skill alone puts you ahead of most people. Eventually, the sacrifices flip. What once felt hard becomes automatic. What once felt boring becomes empowering. The life you built through discipline starts working for you. While others are forced to make desperate choices under pressure, you move calmly with leverage because you already paid the price when it was inconvenient. Pain is a teacher, not an enemy, because every form of growth demands discomfort before it delivers strength. Most people are conditioned to avoid pain at all costs, treating it as a signal to stop, retreat, or distract themselves. But pain is often a signal that something important is happening. When your muscles burn, they are adapting. When your mind feels stretched, it is learning. When rejection hurts, resilience is forming. Pain is not there to destroy you. It is there to reveal your limits and then push them outward. The mistake people make is confusing pain with failure. Discomfort does not mean you are doing something wrong. In many cases, it means you are doing something new. Growth lies outside familiarity, and unfamiliarity always feels uncomfortable. When you interpret pain as a problem, you retreat back into habit. It's that keep you safe but small. When you interpret pain as information, you learn from it. You adjust, improve, and continue forward with more awareness than before. Pain also strips away illusions. It exposes weak systems, fragile habits, and unrealistic expectations. When something hurts, it forces honesty. You see where you lack discipline, preparation, or skill. That clarity is powerful. Without pain, there is no urgency to change. Comfort hides problems. Pain reveals them. That's why some of the biggest breakthroughs come after moments of struggle, loss, or failure. Pain creates contrast, and contrast creates perspective. Learning to sit with discomfort builds emotional control. Instead of reacting, escaping, or blaming, you observe. You start asking better questions. What is this trying to teach me? Where do I need to improve? What part of me needs to grow to handle this better next time? This mindset transforms pain from something you fear into something you use. You stop being fragile and start becoming adaptable. Over time, your relationship with pain changes. It no longer feels like a threat, but like a signal that progress is being made. You don't chase suffering, but you don't run from it either. You understand that every meaningful goal will require moments of struggle, resistance, and doubt. By accepting pain as part of the process, you remove its power over you and turn it into a tool for growth, discipline, and long-term strength. Consistency beats motivate. Ion, because motivation is emotional and unreliable, while consistency is structural and dependable. Motivation comes and goes based on mood, energy, weather, and circumstances. Some days you feel inspired and ready to take on anything, and other days you feel drained, distracted, or doubtful. If your progress depends on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. Consistency removes emotion from the equation. It allows progress to happen even on the days when motivation disappears. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They believe action should follow motivation. But in reality, motivation often follows action. When you show up consistently, even with low energy, you create momentum. That momentum builds confidence, and confidence fuels motivation. Consistency turns effort into habit, and habits run on autopilot. Once something becomes a habit, it no longer requires intense willpower or excitement. It just happens because that's who you've trained yourself to be. Small, consistent actions compound over time. One workout doesn't transform a body, one focused hour doesn't build mastery, and one good decision doesn't change a life. But repeated daily effort multiplies in ways that feel almost invisible at first. That's why people underestimate consistency. The results are delayed, subtle, and quiet in the beginning. But after months or years, the difference between those who stayed consistent and those who didn't becomes impossible to ignore. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you show up as promised, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable. That internal trust is powerful. It reduces self-doubt and hesitation because you know you will follow through. When challenges arise, you don't panic or overthink because your response is already programmed through repetition. You don't negotiate with yourself, you execute. Motivation tends to focus on intensity while consistency focuses on sustainability. Anyone can push hard for a short burst, but burnout comes quickly without structure. Consistency allows you to pace yourself, recover, and stay in the game long enough to win. It prioritizes progress over perfection and discipline over excitement. By showing up repeatedly, even when it feels boring or uncomfortable, you create unstoppable momentum that no temporary burst of motivation can ever match. Identity over outcomes means focusing on who you are becoming rather than obsessing over immediate results. Most people tie their confidence and effort to outcomes they can't fully control. If results come quickly, they feel motivated. If progress slows, they doubt themselves and quit. This creates an emotional roller coaster where effort depends on external feedback. When you shift your focus to identity, your actions become stable regardless of results. You stop asking whether something is working and start asking whether this is what the person you want to become would do. When you act from identity, discipline becomes natural. A person who sees themselves as disciplined doesn't debate whether to show up. They show up because it aligns with who they are. A person who identifies as a learner studies even when it's uncomfortable. A person who identifies as resilient keeps going after setbacks. Outcomes fluctuate, but identity stays consistent. That consistency is what eventually produces extraordinary results. Chasing outcomes often leads to shortcuts. People look for hacks, quick wins, and instant validation because they care more about the reward than the process. Identity-based thinking removes the temptation to cut corners. When your actions are about reinforcing who you are, the process itself becomes the win. Every repetition strengthens your self-image. Even if no one notices and nothing dramatic happens right away. Identity also shapes decision-making under pressure. In difficult moments, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. If your identity is weak, stress exposes it. If your identity is strong, stress reinforces it. This is why focusing only on outcomes is dangerous. When things don't go as planned, people who rely on results lose direction. People grounded in identity adapt and continue. Over time, identity-based action compounds quietly. You don't need constant motivation or reassurance because your behavior is internally driven. Results eventually show up as a byproduct, not a target. Success becomes predictable because it's built on who you consistently are, not what you occasionally achieve. Most people quit early, and that is exactly why endurance becomes a powerful advantage. When something feels difficult, slow, or unrewarding, the majority interpret that feeling as a sign to stop. They expect progress to be fast and visible, and when it isn't, they assume they're doing something wrong. This mindset creates massive dropout at the very stage where success is being decided. The early phase of any worthwhile pursuit is uncomfortable, confusing, and quiet. Very few people are willing to stay long enough for clarity and momentum to appear. Quitting early is often disguised as logic. People tell themselves they are being realistic, protecting their energy, or waiting for the right time. In reality, they are reacting to discomfort. Endurance requires you to stay committed without emotional rewards. It asks you to keep showing up when enthusiasm fades and when doubt grows louder. This is where most competition disappears, not because others lack ability, but because they lack patience. Endurance creates separation through time, not intensity. You don't need to be the smartest, fastest, or most talented. You need to be the one who stays when others leave. Time magnifies effort. Someone who works moderately but consistently for years will outperform someone who works intensely for a few weeks and then quits. Endurance allows skills to mature, confidence to stabilize, and systems to develop. These things cannot be rushed. Staying power also builds emotional strength. When you push past the urge to quit, you expand your tolerance for discomfort. That tolerance makes future challenges feel smaller. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Over time, you develop a calm confidence because you've already proven to yourself that you don't collapse under pressure. This internal strength becomes visible in how you move, decide, and respond to setbacks. The longer you endure, the more unfair the advantage becomes. While others are restarting, switching paths, or explaining why something didn't work, you are compounding progress. Opportunities begin to appear not because you chased them, but because you stayed. Endurance quietly turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results by allowing time to do what it does best: separate those who are serious from those who are only curious. Remember, every choice you make today shapes the person you'll become tomorrow. Doing what is hard now, waking up early, pushing through discomfort, staying consistent, and enduring when others quit, builds a foundation no one can shake. The path to becoming unstoppable is not glamorous or easy, but it is predictable. Those who commit to doing the hard things consistently, who focus on identity over outcomes, and who embrace pain as a teacher, inevitably separate themselves from the crowd. You have the power to decide whether you follow the easy path that leads to struggle or the hard path that leads to unstoppable growth. Good luck on your journey. Stay disciplined, trust the process, and remember that every challenge you face today is preparing you for the life you've always wanted. Thank you for being here, for showing up, and for choosing to take control of your future. Keep pushing and stay unstoppable.